wanna do now is making it last. Mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, friends forever, strengthening the ties that keep us together. Mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, friends forever, strengthening the ties that keep us together.
Once again, it's time for another conversation. This is the podcast, Making It Last, where it's all about relationships, helping you to have better relationships, not just with yourselves, but with each other. I'm Noreen Daly. Our topic this time around is how can we have better relationships with children? And to speak about that, we have some people know as Auntie Anna, I know as Anne-Marie and other things, which we won't say. And she's here with her son, Nigeroy. This is Anne-Marie.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Who is Anne-Marie? Before we get into the conversation, who is Anne-Marie?
Does that mean I need to tell you something about myself?
You know you're a bright one, yes.
Anne-Marie is a fun, loving girl. I'm not a girl. I'm up in age, but I'm still a girl.
Oh,
but
okay.
I'm a people person. I love children, and I just love being happy and having fun.
Okay. So she's basically here wearing two hats, so to speak, because she is a radio producer for the Even a Child program on NCU Radio. So even her interaction with other children, but most importantly, she's here with her son, Nigeroy. No. Nigeroy, hello.
Hi.
And welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Now, how can we have better relationships with children? And if you of course, can use your relationship with Nigeroy as an example. How?
Okay, all right. There's so much to that, Miss Daly. But to begin with, I first want to say that children are gifts from the Lord. I'll say some things, and as you go along, maybe your listeners can make association with real life situations. So I want parents, first of all, or whomever deal with children, to know that they're gifts from the Lord at first. I say that because when somebody gives you a gift, if you live in a small house and somebody is going to give you a sofa set and it can't fit in your house, you might still want to take it and try to make it fit. You're not going to say, oh, that is too cumbersome.
Okay.
And if you're about to say that, you're going to find the nicest way to say that. The point I'm making is that you treat gifts very special.
Yes.
And you make space for gifts because they're gifts.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And the next thing that parents should understand is accept your child. It sounds a way, but a lot of times, even now I'm dealing with a situation, a lot of times when persons are pregnant, especially mothers and fathers too, they have expectations of what their children or child should look like.
Okay.
Or be like.
Okay.
And we'll start up with the look like first, because the physical is what you see first.
Right.
And sometimes that child might not come out the way that you had intended for them to look. And already you're not realizing that you're not accepting your child. And from that lack of acceptance, then your behavior towards your child, it might not be evident at the same time, but it is somewhere there that is affecting how you treat that child. So we want those two things. Those are very foundational for parents to understand.
Okay.
From there, you can, if you see children as little people, they're people like you.
Okay.
They have feelings, they have emotions, they have brain. It's just that they're little.
Okay.
And their brains are not as fully developed as ours.
Okay.
Which means that their thoughts are going to need to be guided. But you can't see them as a species that's from somewhere else that you just don't understand. Take the time to understand. So parenting is a full-time job. I'm saying all of these because if you don't get these intact at the get-go, you're going to have problems with the relationship with your child moving forward. So you have those in your brains and you're ready to move forward. you're not going to know everything about rearing your child because they don't come with manuals. Human beings they don't come with manuals.
Okay.
But you'd have to think though, just like how you'd get a radio, watch, a phone or whatever comes with a manual. That's the product, and you're instructed how to use it, right? If you feel that you're not that knowledgeable in rearing your child, there is help.
Yes.
There's literature out there. There are other parents out there that you can talk to that you might have observed, because you can observe behaviors that you'd want to see in your child, and you can begin to talk with circles of parents who you emulate them in a sense, because everybody would want to tell you what to do. That's not the issue here. Look at people who are rearing their children in a way that you would desire, and then you speak with them. But you have to work at the relationship with your child. Talk to your child. They have something to say.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's a nice segue and for us to get into the conversation, because there are a lot of parents who have the mindset that children must be seen and not heard. I know people say that that's a long time thing, but I do recognize that some parents still have that mindset. How do you feel about that? And how then have you fostered the kind of environment to ensure that he's such an outspoken young man?
All right. Well, I'm going to now have to be very careful what I say because he's right here. But when I was growing up, Miss Daly, if you have it in your mind to say, whether it's right or wrong, keep it in your mind. That's where it stays. If you say it out, bam.
Okay.
And then I looked at how my parents, probably she didn't know better then. And I said, all right, that's not how I'm going to grow my children. So now you are going to allow your children to be expressive, but I'm going to say a word that is very important. 2 words with B, boundaries and balance.
Okay.
Boundaries and balance. That's going to be very important. So while you're allowing your child to be expressive, they have to be expressive within boundaries, and they have to have a balance. Because if there is no boundary and there is no balance, the expression might become disrespectful. Okay. Which is where you don't want to go. Okay. So it's parenting is complex. So while you're there talking to the child, like Nigeroy, since he was 3, right, Nigeroy?
Yes.
All right. Since he was 3, and since he was 3, we have been having conversations. Okay. And I want to say to parents, Miss Daly, you can have conversation with your child, any conversation you want, but listen to this, at age-appropriate language. Okay. Age-appropriate language. Okay. And it's interesting. So I'll say to Nigeroy, like we'd have the system where if I want Nigeroy to do something from very early, you must put things in place, what you desire at a later age in your child. You don't need to wait until they're 6. You got to start doing it once they're 2 or 3 or so on. Okay. So I'm saying, all right, this is something, I don't plan to talk a lot. I want him to be obedient. So I have this 10 count, right, Nigeroy?
Yes, mommy.
10 count. So I do this. Nigeroy, I need you to go put away your toys. And on the count of 10. Okay. So, 10 is a long time. Right. You're not going to count too fast. Right. So you're giving him an action to do, but you're not just saying, go put away your toys. So you're counting 10, 9, 8, 7. And then whatever you promise at the end, if he doesn't do that, then you give it to him. Okay. But I sit and I talk to him. I teach my children feelings from very early. Sad. Okay. Happy. Okay. And I talk with them. How are you feeling? After you have taught those emotions, they can tell you. Talk to them when they get from school. And talk to them while you're driving home in the car. Children always have something to say. The fact of the matter is that parents, they don't talk to their children from the get-go. By one, they're babbling. 2, they're just forming words. Okay. But by 3, they should be able to be talking to you. Break them in the habit of talking. Break them in the habit of becoming little conversationalists. And by the time they're 5 or so, Nigeroy and I, we have lots of conversation. He's such a company. Nigeroy, do you have anything you want to say on really how parents should get their children to talk like you think about you and I?
Well, I think they should talk like how they should talk to their children, parents. They should like help them like, for instance, like they're like how you said 3 they're supposed to be starting like forming words. So that's basically phonics, school stuff, anyways. But it's kind of a good thing because when you're helping the child practice words, it actually puts the brain into like a function mode, which children can actually start learning, like how I was. Cause I love to read a lot.
Okay.
Cause when I was 5 or 6, somewhere around there, but older, I was reading, and then what I realized, we had a reading week this week in school, and then I've been waiting, not waiting. I've been anxious to see Ben Carson, cause he was my icon. Actually, he inspired me to read.
Okay.
So it's just a good thing for children to form words, so they can like. Cause my mother always told me to read ahead of the teacher.
Okay.
So when you do the lesson, you will know it. So what parents should try to do, they should try and make them form words and stuff. And you can even buy some like picture with words on it. So you can like buy it and then help them pronounce the word and stuff.
Okay. But that's it in terms of parents though. But I'm sure sometimes even your interactions at church and your interactions at school, how do you think sometimes adults can try to have better relationships with children?
They can maybe like, you said church, right?
Yeah, well, wherever, whether church or school, wherever, other places where adults interact with children. How do you think that we can try to have better relationships?
Like at church, like if the child is like doing something which they're not supposed to do on Sabbath,
Okay.
the parent can tell the child. I mean
The adult, right?
The adult can tell the child not to do that because as my mother said that if you know what's right from wrong, stick it in your head.
Okay.
So if a child does something wrong, tell the child, because when the child is older, it will understand what to do from what not to do.
Okay.
But is there a way or adults should talk to children though, Nigeroy? Because we have had conversations about that. Telling the child that it is right or wrong is one thing. But what do you think about how the adult tells the child to do that thing? What are your thoughts about that?
How the child should, how the
Adult.
adult should speak to the child. They should probably speak gently because the child wouldn't understand. The child wouldn't really understand sometimes. So sometimes you have to sit down with the child, like explain it to them why they should not do it and what they should really do on the Sabbath. Because the Sabbath day is reverent for God. So they should probably like sit down and talk with the child and explain why.
Okay. Do you think you said at church, do you think the same thing would apply at school also, that the teachers should be very careful how they talk? They must speak gently, or is there something else that you think that teachers should be doing so they have better relationships with children?
For parents, yes, the same thing. But for teachers, though, teachers could probably, like, since they're teaching a class, they couldn't probably, like, stop and talk to the child.
Okay.
But maybe, like, when she's finished with her work and lunchtime comes, you can just call out the child.
Okay.
Make everybody wash their hands and stuff. Call the child and talk to the child. So the child could not, like, so the child won't do it again.
Okay. So talk to the child, because sometimes some adults, when they're so upset, they have a tendency to, well, not intentionally, sometimes maybe even embarrass the child. So you're saying take the child aside and talk to that child.
Yes, because we shouldn't really we shouldn't embarrass people. We shouldn't really take out a child and say laugh at that child and stuff. You should take out the child and talk to that child. So when that child like does it or almost goes to doing it, that child will remember not to do it again.
Is there anything else you'd like to add, Anne-Marie, that you think, I noticed you said that there's several things that could have been said, but we obviously can't cover everything in one podcast. So you spoke about the fact that you must be careful that you think of them as gifts. the whole sense of acceptance, that they're little people, take time to understand them. And if it is that as a parent, you don't think that you have all the skills or the tools necessary, get help.
Right. All right. Let me just pick up on one little thing that Nigeroy said that I thought was very important, and then I'll answer.
Okay.
And this is a real example.
Okay.
For those who are listening.
Okay.
Children's world and how they speak. Now, you ask him a question, and maybe one would think that he's going to go straight to answering the question. Because I am sure, Miss Daly, if you were to be honest, you had a type of answer in your head that maybe would kind of give. Most other, he gave what's not what he said. So parents can teach children words like phonics and other.
Yes.
No, the truth and fact that when you start with your child that early, in your child's mind, you're developing communication and conversation, and you're making them open. You're making them open to talk, even from that early. So by the time they reach the age where you want them to talk to you now, then because they're used to use with them from that tiny, it becomes more comfortable for them to talk with you. So you're building conversation relationship right there. So I just wanted to point that out.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Another thing parents need to look at is the parenting styles that they employ to their children. And basically I'm presently doing a research on that, because especially in our Jamaican context, we don't think about parenting styles. It's in the literature, it's out there. You have authoritative parenting, you have authoritarian parenting, you have permissive parenting, and you have neglectful parenting. That's a whole different podcast, because it would have been good to explain each of these parenting styles.
And something we can do at a later date. That's not a problem.
Right. And ways how you employ them without even knowing. But it is important, because let me just mention one. The authoritative parenting style is what we carry out most of the time. Remember, Nigeroy said, don't just tell the child not to do it, but explain why. Why you're not supposed to, what will happen. But in the authoritative parenting style, sit over there. Don't do that.
Yes.
Bam, 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 bam.
Yes.
Hit.
Yes.
And then you find that because children are sociable and they learn from their environment, a parent might just find a child hitting him or her, and they're like, where did you get that from?
Yeah.
That's because you just slapped him and he didn't even know why you slapped him. I'm not saying that parents can't whip now and then, but the child must have a clear understanding of what is going on.
I love that, Nidra, actually. And as we're wrapping up, any final words from Nigeroy? All
right, a comfort to parents, those who are listening. It's gonna sound so hard, but there's a uniqueness about your own child. So you need to understand your child and not feel pressured by what other parents are doing, but you need to get the help. There's help available out there, and there's no crime that you're not put that in quotes now, the best parent ever, because each child comes differently and you study each child differently, but it can happen.
Okay. Any final words from you?
Yes, Miss Daly. When parents, you will beat a child that is very rude, but as I said, you need to explain still. You need to explain, because like how my mother said again, the child will like hit another child, and then you start beating the child again, and then look at this point, when they grow up, they're gonna keep on doing bad things. Before they grow up, they can't even die by that. So the thing is, children should be respectful to parents, whatever they do, and parents should also have respect for and children. Listen to their child and look out for what they are actually doing.
Thank you so much, Anne-Marie and Nigeroy, for joining me on this conversation. It was about how we can have better relationships with children with specific attention to the parent-child. This was Noreen Daly for another Making It Last podcast, all about how we help you to have better relationships, not just with yourselves, but with other people. Until next time.
You loving me, I loving you. Mothers and fathers Husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life won't live in the past. All I wanna do now is making it last.